And we are recording. Okay, media sounds and mic. That's genius. I wanted to just talk about how I got that moody effect when I do my pictures on my Instagram. So today I'm going to be using this picture of Trev. He's just kind of getting started. He just started last year. He's really supportive, always is helping out. Just got a new Sony camera. There's a lot of different things that are involved in it, but we'll just start from the beginning. So you're gonna see all your panels. You're gonna have light, color, effects, detail, optics, and geometry. We're gonna start off in the light section. So first thing you're gonna wanna do is go into this S-curve panel. And the top right is going to be your highlights, the bottom left is going to be the blacks. So typically I will make an S-curve very slightly. So you're going to grab your highlights. You know what? I'm going to use my pen. Be so much better. Okay. And then you're going to want to bring your blacks up, but I don't think for this one I'm going to, so I'm just going to leave the blacks in the corner because I don't think I want to raise the blacks yet. So then you're going to want to put a point right here. You're going to raise that, and you see how that's going to affect your lighter midtones. And then put another point down here, and that will affect your darker midtones. So that's good for now for the S-curve panel. And now you can move on to the rest of the light panel. So for exposure, I think I like it how it is right now. I don't think I have any reason to change it, so we'll just go into contrast. So we just did contrast essentially by messing with the S-curve. So I don't want to do this too much. I'll maybe just do it about like 5. So you can see it already has a big difference. It's much more contrasty, moody. Now we can move on to the highlights. So you can see in his arm and say like back here on the back of his neck is a little bit bright. So I'm just going to bring the highlights down to about -45. Looks good to me. And now for shadows, you're going to be looking right at like the base of his bag and under his arm. So you'll be able to tell right away if it's too much. I mean, just go by what you think looks good. I'm going to raise it to about, I would say 50, 49. So now we're going to move on to whites. And, you know, kind of just mess with it, see what you like. I am going to raise it to 8, I think. And blacks, I will raise to about 10. So I like that where it is right now. So you can see it's not a major difference, but it's enough of a difference that's going to make it have more of a moody effect. Once you're done with the light panel, we're going to close that and we're going to go on to color. So you're going to see the B and W, black and white, and then there's going to be the 3 little circles, which is your color grading tab, and the 1 rainbow circle, which is your color mix. So color grading basically controls the shadows, midtones, and highlights. I like to do that first, that way I can get a general tone for my entire picture, and then go back into the color mix and then change individual colors. Starting out in color grading, we're going to do the shadows first, which is this first dot. Second dot is going to be midtones, and then third is going to be highlights. Fourth is global, which is basically the overall color. So we'll start with the first one. So for my shadows, I want it to have a teal look, so I'll leave it about there. If you hit this little down arrow, you go into saturation. I'm gonna set mine to about 15. I really like that right there. So you can see in the shadows now it has more of a teal look, and that's what I like. So we're gonna go on to midtones. So midtones, I'm gonna want to do an orangey tint. I like that right there. So saturation, maybe we'll bring it down. We'll bring it down to 18. I really like that right there. So we're going to move on to the highlights tab. So I will usually do a yellow. Somewhere in between a yellow and an orange, I think looks really nice. I mean, if you want it to be more of a colder picture, I would maybe set this to like blue and then just bring your saturation down. I'm gonna set my saturation. Well, you can see if the more I bring it up, it gets very yellow behind the trees there. You can kind of see it goes from blue to yellow. So I would just set my saturation to about 18. And I really like that right there. So you can see it already has a major difference. That's again why I really like to do the grading first, just because it kind of changes the whole picture really fast, and then I can see what individual colors I want to change after that. So moving on, we're going to go into the color mix section. Here's where you can see you have all your colors lined up. Off the bat, I'm going to see if I want to change the red. You can see if I go like that, it's more that color. I like somewhere in the middle. I mean, I feel like camera did a really good job. So maybe I'll just bring the saturation down a hair, just because on his arm it's a little bit red. So we'll bring the saturation down to about there, -17 I think looks really good. And the luminance I will bring down to about -10. I really like that right there. And so we're done with the red, I would say. Now orange. Now this is going to affect his hair and skin tone. You can see the more I go that way, it's green. I would say right about there. -24 looks good. And we'll just move the saturation to about -2. Really like that right there. Maybe let's move the hue a little less. We'll go -15 with the hue. And again, all this color adjustments is going to be very individual to every picture, but I'm just giving you an idea of how each of these different sections work. Moving on to yellow. So this is going to be a lot of the grass. You can see right underneath his camera. Hold on, it's loading. Okay, so if you look right underneath of his camera, you can see it really changes. So we'll set it to about -40, looks good. Luminance, we'll bring this down to about -40. One thing with luminance, I didn't really start messing around with it until just recently, and it has such a big effect on your pictures, especially when you're taking pictures of people and you really want to manipulate their skin tones to make it look spot on. I'm just going to go back into orange and set that to about 35 on luminance. I like that much better now. It really makes the skin tones just kind of stick out a little bit more. You can see if I bring it way down how bad it looks, his hair and a little bit of a skin tone. So if we bring it up, I like it right about there at 35. I think that looks really nice. Greens aren't gonna affect it too much, so I am not even gonna worry about it. Again, that's something that's really going to be particular to each picture, is that not every picture is going to have a certain color that you can manipulate. We're going to move on to blue. I just want to change the color of his pants. I want it to be more of a teal, more of like a cinematic look. And then I'll just bring the saturation way down to about maybe even less. We'll go around -52. Luminance I will also bring down a hair. -6 looks good to me. So I would say that's it for the color mix, but you can tell that you can really change your image almost completely just by using the color mix section. And it's great for if something just happened to look a little bit off to you, you can really make that change here. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to close the color and move on to the effects panel. And now these four right here, texture, clarity, dehaze, and vignette, can really ruin a picture fast, but if you use it in the right amounts, it can really make a picture. But I know that when I first started, doing texture was like, I did it way too much. So you just don't want to do too much to where people look at your picture and the only thing that can come to mind is how much you edited it. First thing we're gonna do is texture, and we're gonna bring that up to about 15. And clarity, so you can see the more clarity you add, it starts to look ugly real quick. So we'll bring this down to about 12. That looks really good. And vignette, I will set to -10. I really like that so far. So you can see it has a completely different look right now, and it's not by doing a ton of changes in one little thing. It's by doing all these individual changes in different sections. And really, the more you do, the more you edit, the more you're going to be able to look at a picture and see right away what change you're going to want to make. Detail, I kind of just, as soon as I open Lightroom, there's certain things that are already done. I don't know if it's just Lightroom adding it on there, but I don't touch the sharpening usually and all the other stuff. Noise reduction, only if you're shooting at night, for me typically, or you had to take a picture with a really high ISO and you need to use noise reduction. That's one thing, but for this picture we don't need to touch anything in the detail section and nothing in optics or geometry. But if I'm looking at this picture right now, I think I want to go back into color and I want to give it just a little bit more overall saturation. And that's one thing, if you go in and change a bunch of things in the color mix section, you might find that you want to make some more changes in the other panels after you're done. So I would say that's pretty much all that I would do for this picture. I mean, you saw basically we went through each individual panel. So we went through light, color, effects, and detail. I mean, detail we didn't end up doing anything, but you can see how each panel for light, color, and effects, each little thing that you do can change it a little bit. So you could tell that as we were walking through it, as I was walking you through it, it wasn't like I did one major difference. It's a lot of different things that really make it look the way it looks. So you just want to take it one photo at a time and realize that each picture is going to be completely different than the last. Not necessarily, but every picture is going to be a little bit different. So you just, to be able to have an idea of what each one of these panels and what each setting within Lightroom is going to do is a major benefit, so that you can look at a picture and be like, oh, well, I know right away I want to raise the shadows or I want to bring the highlights down. Knowing what you need to do before you even start editing is a major help and a big advantage to being able to edit your photos a little bit faster and a little bit better. Don't feel pressure to kind of make it look like anyone else's. Create your own style. Me showing you all this isn't so that you can just copy it step for step. It's so that you can take what I did, add your own spin to it, and do that for your photos, and then come up with your own style. I edit completely different than I did when I first started, but it's because I realized different things and how it affects the picture, and that I want to start using those different tools. So find what works for you and hone your style and just get better at it and make changes as you go, and don't worry about what other people are doing, and if they're gonna like your picture or not, doesn't matter. So that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you learned something, and if you want to send me any of your pictures that you edited, do that. Send it to here, my Instagram, and thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it, and edit. See ya.